Good morning, AP Gov. Today we're going to take a look at the Fourth Amendment. Attached on the Google Classroom assignment, you have a Google Doc that you can fill out as we go through this. This is what we would have done in class had we been together. Unfortunately, you're not going to get to ask me all of your famous what-if questions, which I will greatly miss. But you can shoot me what-if questions later on, and I'll be more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability. So here we go. This is what the Fourth Amendment says: the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So a couple of big, huge things there. Number one, you knows how it's unreasonable searches and seizures. So then who would make a determination whether a search is reasonable or unreasonable? That would be the job of the courts. In order to search your person, houses, papers, and effects, you have to have a search warrant. That search warrant has to be based upon probable cause and supported by a judge's oath or affirmation. So they have to get that search warrant by going to a judge, and on that search warrant it describes where you are to look and what things you are looking for to take. Why do we have this amendment? It provides us safety, it provides us individual privacy, provides us with personal property rights, and it prevents unreasonable searches by the government. Again, what are the four places that were protected by the Fourth Amendment? You have your person and your papers, PP. Your person would be, for instance, your blood, your saliva, your anything like that, your DNA. Papers would be financial, medical. Your house is your house, and then your effects is basically your property. So if you can remember PPs, then you can remember the four places of the Fourth Amendment that you are protected. What is a search? So for instance, at this point, I would have in class asked somebody like Josh Ganson, Josh, what did you have for dinner last night? And he would have said something to the effect of, I had, 3 steaks, 5 hamburgers, a baked potato, and 2 salads, and water. And so after that, I would have asked another student, did I just search Josh Ganson? And the answer would have been yes, because of this. A search is a government interference of a citizen's privacy interest. And so what you ate for dinner last night is your private interest. So if I asked you, I would be searching you. Now, you don't have to answer. You could have said, Jason, I'm not answering your question. Leave me alone. And you have every right to do that based on the Fourth Amendment. What is a seizure? A seizure is when the government interferes with your possessory interest, what you own, what you have, or your freedom of movement if we are seizing you and throwing you in jail. So that's the difference between a search and a seizure. Okay, one of the things that is not in the Fourth Amendment, but we use at school, is a reasonable suspicion. So for instance, the police get a warning to be on the lookout for a 6-foot white male wearing blue jeans and a red hoodie that just left the Circle K and took 5 Polar Pops. And so if the police are driving down the street and they see a white male, approximately 6 foot tall, wearing blue jeans and a red hoodie, and has a whole bunch of Polar Pops in his hands, then they have a reasonable suspicion to pull that person over and at least start questioning him a little bit. And what they're trying to do is go from reasonable suspicion to probable cause. Probable cause means that there is hard evidence to show that there was a person who was involved in a crime. And so then all of a sudden, if the guy says, no, I didn't go to Circle K, I went to Target, and the Polar Pops obviously say Circle K, then the guy has been lying. And now you start to build probable cause. And you can see what some of the other evidence is against it. Videotaping is a big thing now that everybody has security cameras. That helps them build probable cause. Once you build probable cause, then you have the right to get a search warrant and then start searching other areas if the crime were bigger than just a theft of Polar Pops. Once you have probable cause and you want to search, so let's say, for instance, I believe that, let's say Jillian Crutcher is dealing meth out of her house, and I start surveying her house, and I notice that people are coming in and out at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning when most people are asleep, and then one of those people we bust, and they say, well, I'll tell you everything that's in her house, and so we get evidence of where things are. Then I can go to a judge, because now I'm building a case of probable cause against Jillian, and I can tell the judge, hey, we believe that she is running a meth lab. We know it's downstairs. We know that it has X, Y, and Z equipment. And so we can tell the judge exactly what we're looking for and where to find it. And that's how we get a search warrant. And it takes a couple hours to get that, and has to be signed off by a judge. You can't just make one on your own. And so that's how they get it. Once they execute it, then there you go. Let's go back. Police officers obtain a warrant by judge, and they have to show probable cause. Usually the police provide the judge information with written statements or whatnot. So that's exactly what we just stated. Now, these are types of searches. So search warrant, stop and frisk would mean, okay, we pull the guy over who's walking down the street with the Polar Pops, and they pat him down just to make sure that he doesn't have any weapons on them. That is a Terry stop. Terry was a criminal. They patted him down to make sure that he didn't have any weapons. They found guns on him, and then later busted him for that. And then he said, wait a minute, you didn't have a right to pat me down in the first place. And the Supreme Court said, yes, police officers have the right to pat people down just to make sure that they don't have any weapons, so that everybody's safety is okay. Incident to an arrest means if I arrest you in the car, then I can search anywhere in the car that you are able to reach. So the center console, under your seat, if I can reach the glove box, I can get to the glove box, behind the driver's seat, in the back, but that's it. I can search anywhere if I have consent. So that's why they always ask you, you don't mind if I search your car, do you? And if you say, sure, go ahead and search my car, now you've given them consent to search everywhere. Plain view means that if I can see it in plain view, and I am legally allowed to be there, then it is okay for me to bust you. So for instance, if we had that search warrant for Jillian's house, and let's say to get to her basement I have to walk through her dining room, and on the dining room table there are 5 kilos of cocaine, I can bust her for those 5 kilos of cocaine because I can see them in plain view, and I am allowed to walk through the dining room to get to the downstairs basement. Now, if I went into her bedroom and her bedroom is completely on the other side of the house, that would be illegal. Vehicles can be searched a little bit more easily because they are mobile, and people can therefore take the evidence away. Open fields and abandoned property, once you put your trash out to be picked up, it can be used, searched, gone through. You do not have any more expectations of privacy. So all of those are examples of types of searches that can be done. This is a sample search warrant and what it looks like. It has the date, has the time, it'll have the location, it'll have the location, and it'll say exactly what is on the list of things, and that's on the second part, which I don't have, but it has the items that would be looked for in the search warrant. Outside of school, we have the case Mapp versus Ohio. This is a really important case, even though it's not one that's on the is it on there? I have to check and see if it's on there or not. But this is a really important case about the Fourth Amendment. Basically, they wanted to search the home of Dollar Mapp. They didn't have a search warrant, so they handed her. They showed her a Chinese takeout menu, but they folded it in a way that she couldn't see it was a Chinese takeout menu. They said they had the search warrant. They found what they were looking for, and then she found out later that they had an illegal search warrant. And so the question is, can you use illegal evidence, illegally found evidence against somebody? And the answer is no, you cannot. And this is known as the exclusionary rule. The exclusionary rule says that you must exclude illegally obtained evidence. So if I knowingly have a bad search warrant and I execute it anyway, and I find stuff, later on that stuff that I find will not be allowed to be used against somebody. If I break into somebody's house to find out that they are running a meth lab, I cannot use that information because I found it illegally. And so Mapp versus Ohio basically says if you find evidence illegally, it is not allowed to be used in a court. Can a police officer enter your home without a warrant? The answer is yes, if they feel like a crime is going to be committed, or they're chasing you and they believe that you're going to destroy evidence, then they can enter into it. But it basically, most of the time, they must have a search warrant in order to do it. However, there are some circumstances where they don't need it. I'm going to skip ahead to school. And the Fourth Amendment at school is pretty limited for you students. I am sorry to say that basically you have very little Fourth Amendment rights at school, and that is because of the case New Jersey versus TLO. TLO was a teenage girl. In order to protect her identity, they used just her initials. She was caught in a girl's bathroom smoking with another student. When a teacher went in and saw that there was smoke coming out of the stall, the teacher busted them and then took them to the principal and sent them into different rooms. They went into room number 1 where the other girl was, and they asked her, "Have you been smoking?" She said yes. That was really the end of it. They went into TLO's room then, and they said, "Have you been smoking?" And she said, "No, no, no, no." And so they emptied out her purse and they found cigarettes. And so she was busted. But then they found, when they started digging in her purse even more, they found all sorts of other stuff like marijuana, a wad of dollar bills, a list of people that she owed and that owed her. And it was just basically, they found a lot more than what they initially expected. TLO then sued, saying, "Wait a minute! Once you found the cigarettes, the search should have been over, and that they didn't have the right to go any further." The Fourth Amendment basically does not apply to students at school because administrators have something called in loco parentis, and this is a big one. That is Latin for in place of the parents. So basically, administrators have the same power to search you as does your parent. And since your parent is not limited in any way, neither are administrators. As long as the administrator has a reasonable reason to search you, and in this case they said yes, it was reasonable to search her purse since they had found cigarettes. They wanted to make sure that they had all the cigarettes. and didn't leave anything else out. So it was a reasonable search. So as long as the principals can prove that the search is reasonable, then they can go through your stuff, and that is your purse, your backpack, your coats, pretty much anything that they want to. They can. Your locker is not your locker. It is Parkway's locker. And so they can go through Parkway's locker anytime they want. And that is all the result of New Jersey versus TLO. So basically, we can go through anything. Now, a teacher cannot. A teacher is not an administrator. I cannot search your stuff. But I can call for a principal to go through if I think that somebody's got drugs in their backpack that I saw. I could not go through and search it, but I could notify an administrator and they could do that for me. So basically on the continuum, parents have no limits. They're on the far left. They can search you whenever they want. School administrators, I really should have moved that pretty close to parents. They work on a reasonable suspicion, whereas the police have to work upon probable cause, which is the hardest of the standards to deal with. Can schools strip search students? It sounds like, duh, no, they can't. And that is the outcome, but somebody tried, and it was a bad deal for that school district. The Safford School District against Sarah Redding. She was accused of having drugs on her. They made her basically strip down to her underwear and shake her underwear in front of an administrator. They didn't find what they were looking for. She then called mom. Mom then came and slapped a pretty hefty lawsuit on them, and they won. So basically, it says that the only reason why you should strip search a student is if you know you saw them hide whatever you were looking for in their underwear. You better know that it's there. Otherwise, you do not have a right to go that far on a search. Verona versus Acton, can we drug test students? And the answer is yes, but only athletes, because they put themselves and the health of others at risk. They must be able to we can drug test them because they put their health at a greater risk. We do not want people like Josh Ganson playing football high on cocaine. We do not want people playing sports on drugs because they are a harm to themselves or a harm to others. I don't know why I'm on a Josh Ganson kick today, so sorry about that, Josh. And for those of you who really wanted to, I guess I could have said, Tyler Kinsey. We don't want Tyler Kinsey high on methamphetamine while doing whatever Tyler does out there. And so this is a little bit that tells administrators, what are you looking for? How do you know the information? Where do you have to search? And what's the scope of your search? That would determine how far they're going to go into searching a student. Can we grade each other's work? Believe it or not, this made it all the way to the Supreme Court or to a district court, and they said, yes, grading papers is not the same thing as grading a teacher's grade book. So I can have students grade each other's tests, but I cannot have a student enter grades for a class and see everybody's grades in the grade book. That would be illegal, and please don't tell me if you know that that's going on. Post 9/11, obviously 9/11 with terrorism is a big thing as far as searching and seizing, trying to get information about upcoming terrorist attacks. FISA is the act. It's called the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. This gave the government a whole lot more power to go through foreign surveillance and that surveillance even here at home. It does set up a judicial process to get that done. But it basically allows them to have greater electronic surveillance. The Patriot Act is another act that also was big. President Obama signed that, or actually extended it. The Patriot Act was passed by George W. Bush and then extended under Obama. It called for roving wiretaps. You can search business records. You can look for lone wolf actors, not just groups of terrorists. And so the Patriot Act, FISA, all of those are extra surveillance for the government. So that's a little bit about the Fourth Amendment. I'm going to have you watch a little video about it tomorrow, and then we'll deal with the Fifth Amendment as well. So hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.